What's up, guys? Chris with Classic Home Concepts here for this episode 5.
I think so. 5.
So getting used to it, getting a little more comfortable on screen, talking to everybody. And so if you're new around here, please follow, subscribe, like, all that fun stuff. And what are we talking about today, Kinsey?
Today we're gonna go down the rabbit hole of how this wonderful business got started and kind of your past and your history. I know you've done construction for a long time and since you were young, and so kind of tell us about how we got here.
Okay, well, so I'm 33 and I've done construction for 18 years now. That's kind of cool. I started with my stepdad. He had a construction company while I was growing up, and make sure we have so we can see if people comment. So we started doing that. We did a lot of everything, kind of, but mainly he really enjoyed building decks, and we did fences, and but then we do a bathroom remodel or a roof or kind of anything. So I spent my summers doing that, and we worked hand in hand for really until I got out of high school. And then I decided that, well, I kind of was forced, which is a whole nother topic we can get into. But, you were told when you got out of high school, like, you go to college or you're not worth anything.
Right.
Which I fundamentally disagree with now looking back. But I went to school and I got a degree in construction management. And then I got out of school and took a job in Kansas City. And I kind of worked construction for my stepdad, off and on when I could, with classwork and everything. It didn't always work out. So I do it a lot in the summers. Made a pretty sweet deal that he still probably is annoyed by. So I had this deal when I think I was between my freshman and sophomore year. And I told him I'll work as many hours a week as you want me to all summer long, but you have to put me on salary all year through the school year. Well then, so we worked, and I'm sure we worked 60, 70 hour weeks. It was a lot. Mm-hmm. But then like 2 weeks before college started back up, he signed this big contract in Branson, and I got out of school at 2:00. So every day I'd get out of class and I'd drive down there and I'd work from 3 to 5 when it got dark. And he still had to pay me full the whole year. So
yeah, I'm sure he's biting his tongue on that one.
Yeah.
What did Courtney say up there? She gave us a comment.
Oh, hey, babe. That's my lovely wife. She says the whole family's here. How do you put it up? Yeah, you control that. I'm just the one that talks a lot.
The whole fam's here. Hi, Court.
Benny and Blake with you. You have to tell him I said hi. So yeah, I did that. And then, he actually ended up working in Branson for several years. And so after that first year, it just wasn't feasible. So did the typical college jobs, worked restaurants, and then just would do that in the summer. So always stayed in it. It's always been a passion. I really, really like helping people, and I really like seeing their face when something's finished.
Right.
Even like, we just got done with a job, and they wouldn't normally, our foreman collect a check at the end, mm-hmm. and they just wouldn't do it, because they wanted Chris to come see how perfect this was and how good the guys did.
Right. That's a good feeling to have.
Yeah. I love that. And like, that's just a really cool thing. Like, they're proud of it. They're proud of what they got, and they want to see it.
Got another comment up here.
So, hey, Michael, how are you? Thanks, man. Yeah, we're doing great. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you being here. So then my senior year of college, I led a construction management competition team. So I didn't work that. That was the first time I hadn't worked since I'd turned 15, but I just focused on that full time. And
what was that like? What did you learn there?
So it was intense. It was in San Antonio, and it was the first time that our school had ever gone to that competition. And so what it was is you got there, and construction management in general at Missouri State is a phenomenal program. But when I went, it was way more commercial based mm-hmm. than residential.
Okay.
Which a lot of the principles are the same, but you're just working on a way bigger scale.
Right.
And so what we did at that competition was we got there in the morning, and I think we got plans and specs at like 6 a.m. Mm-hmm. and we had to price it, put it together, schedule it, create a safety plan, create all of that. Everything that you would need to go to construction and contracting. And we had to create that by midnight.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Long day.
Yeah. And so if I remember right, we took a team of 6.
Mhm.
And it was super fun. We didn't place very high because we didn't really know what we were going into. And we had kind of prepped a completely opposite way. But it was a really good experience, and it taught us how to both work under pressure, and then also it taught me like how to be a leader and how to coordinate the guys and make sure everyone was working on the same team. Yeah, it was just a super great experience.
Sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. So then I graduated college and I moved to Kansas City, and I did something not construction related for a while. And then in April of 2014, I think, April or May, I had been dating Courtney for, 5 or 6 months at this point.
Don't get the number wrong.
It's only 5 or 6 months, way, way long ago. So she's not going to get onto me too much. But I just really had a calling to come home, and we were starting to get more serious, and I wanted to be here, and it wasn't an option for Courtney to come up because my stepson, obviously his dad's in his life and his dad's a great guy, and so we wanted both parents to be there. And so I moved back and decided to go back into business with my stepdad. And we did that for about 6 months. And let me just tell you, like, working with family is hard. I mean,
tell me about it.
Right. You're my sister.
I do it every day.
Yeah, it was just a big challenge. We both wanted to run things differently. And I'm sure there was some of that, like, I'm 22, I've got a degree, you don't.
Right.
Like, you need to run it my way. And we were partners 50-50, and we just could not figure it out. And ultimately I was like, hey, I love you. You're my dad. Like, I want that relationship more than I want this business to work. So we've got plenty of work coming up. We've got enough going on. You go your way, I'll go mine. And it was a little rough making that split. We'd also found out that Blakely was on the way.
Yeah, I was
Oscar.
avoiding it.
Oh, it's fine. You can pull it up. We'll talk about it in just a second.
Okay.
But it was a little rough and a little awkward at first, but it was really just a couple weeks. And then we went right back to being father and son. And it was to me, it was one of the better decisions I've ever made, just because to this day, he's still super close.
Right. Well, and sometimes you got to break those barriers if you feel like relationships are
on the line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you having that relationship with him in your personal life is much more important than you having that relationship with him in the business side of things. Right.
So then I went and installed windows. That's what I did for several years. But I like to read a lot. I like to always strive to be better as a person. And well, before we get to there, we'll pull up Oscar's questions.
Why are you not working on lunch break?
He's probably on lunch. So Oscar is one of our best employees. And Oscar, obviously, that some of our guys are hourly and some of our guys are salary. It just depends on how long you've been with the company, what's more important to you. There's a lot of factors that go in, but some of the guys are more worried about having a steady paycheck every week, and some of the guys want to know that, if they work more than 40 in a given week, they're going to get overtime.
Right.
I'm okay with either one. You just kind of got to pick your poison.
Right. Yeah. I think there's pros and cons to both ways of being paid. So
yeah, absolutely. Oscar, make sure you like and follow, subscribe on YouTube.
Subscribe.
Yeah. If you're on here pestering me, you can definitely do that while you're here. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I like to read. I like to constantly try and be better. And I just figured out that if I just installed windows for someone else, I was never going to build a brand. I was never going to build an actual company that when I got to be, one of the guys I worked with was 63. Didn't have much to show. He had done this his whole life. Mm-hmm. He had a truck with 300,000 miles on it. A trailer was probably similar. and he was ready to retire, but he just had the money in his account. Um, I wanted more than that.
Right.
I want either our aunt and uncle own a big excavation company in town, and it looks like one of their kids is going to take it over. I want to have that option for my kids,
right,
if they want it. I don't want to force them into it either. But if not, then at 55, 60, 65, whenever I decide that I'm done working, I want to be able to sell this thing and have something to show for it.
Right.
And I like the idea that if I do sell it and I sell it to the right person or the kids take it over or whatever, we've built an actual legacy now. We've built something that I can say, I use my friend Joe as a good opportunity, and he can say that I think he's the 5th generation, and his kids will be the 6th, and that's really cool to say.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of started. I started taking little jobs on the side of windows to make sure that I could still feed my family, and it kind of just built from there. I moved away from who I was installing with, and now one of the reasons that we're a Pella certified contractor is because we have a really good relationship with the local Pella store. The owner and the employees and the people that work there are great, and so we have a good partnership where the guys do quite a few window installs for them every year. But I get other projects off of those.
Right.
And then we started marketing, and probably about 18 months ago was when I joined a couple different coaching things that were specifically tailored for contractors. I hired a business coach, and that changed my life. That was, I can say before that I pretty much had my first year in business 4 or 5 times in a row.
Right.
Yeah. So I started there. I started really learning just like how to track your key performance indicators, how to actually track your sales, how to push sales, how to do marketing, how to talk to people. One of the big things for me is, if you've ever worked for me or you've ever met me, I'm not a pushy salesperson. If I come to your house and talk about a deck or a sunroom or an outdoor kitchen or whatever, like, I'll help you every way I can. I'll give you any information that you need. But at the end of the day, I'm completely okay if you decide it's not the right fit for whatever reason.
Right.
Because I don't want one of my clients ever looking back and saying, man, I really feel like he just talked me into that and got the contract, and I wasn't ready to do it. Or I wish I would have thought about it longer so I could have done this.
Right.
So learning how to talk to people and how to kind of go through that sales process and really dig into their pain or pleasure or their why, really, for doing any given project has helped me not only be a better person and help the business grow, but it's also helped me be able to help people better.
Well, and you get that a lot with other contractors, that they're almost so monetary based that they forget that there's a reason why people are wanting this. And, we talk a lot about, we both enjoy those jobs more that aren't jobs that they have to do. Like, they don't have to, they're not having to repair something on their home. It's something for enjoyment or entertainment. Those are the jobs that we feel the most wonderful about, because we get to see the look on their face when they're done. And so, yeah, I think that that's good that we are always trying to figure out the why of someone doing their project. And, I think those decisions, especially on the ones where it's not something they're having to do. They are willing to spend money and get the project that they want the first time.
Well, it's pain versus pleasure, and it's always more enjoyable to spend money for fun than it is to spend money on something that's started to cause you strife.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree. And clients are more excited about it. No one's excited to fix siding that, has gotten rotten, or that you buy a new home and there's rotten siding you need to fix or something like that. But you're absolutely excited about a new 150 or 200 square foot in a sunroom where you can sit and drink coffee and just have your Zen moment.
Right. Now, you touched base up to this point, but you kind of left out that a few months as of this year, we're into an office building. So what was work like before that?
Work was crazy. So, um, I worked from home. Um, we have I had a desk 2 feet from my bed, and I didn't have very good work life balance at all. Back then, I would answer a call at. I'll never forget, one of my clients called me at a little intoxicated at 9 o'clock on a Friday and wanted to talk about the handle pulls for his kitchen remodel.
Mhm.
Which I loved working with him. He was a great guy, but that's my family's time.
Right.
I shouldn't be doing that. Um, but when you're at home, when your office is your home, it's really hard to blend that.
Mhm. I know so many people talk about, like, working from home is the way to be and stuff, but especially when you have a wife and kids that are home with you, it's hard to establish, like, "Oh, now I'm working and now I'm done working and I'm technically off work. I'm gonna go spend time with my family."
Yeah, and I think my guess would be some of those people, one, they're not owners.
Mhm.
Like Gary Vee talks a lot about how you shouldn't expect your employees to work as hard as you.
Right.
And I try really hard not to. I very
Have you
much.
met me?
Yeah, you are great at turning it off and going to focus on the kids. And that's what you should be.
Right.
Um, but that's what I want to do too. And so, like, before even before we got the office, I got a second phone that I don't give out to anything business related, and um and so I turned my work phone off at 6.
Mhm.
And so, like, the guys can get a hold of me through another app or through Facebook or something like that. But in our world, there's typically not an emergency
Right.
that has to be handled right that second.
Well, we even realized that, like, last week when you were gone on vacation, there were some things that came up, but it was nothing that couldn't wait till Monday morning. Like, I told our clients, like, "You're on vacation. It's something I like to conversate with you about before I give an answer, and I will call them back on Monday," and everyone understands that, I mean.
Yeah, I think so. Even when I got the phone, like, much less being out of town, like, just setting that expectation and communicating well, which we talk a lot about, making sure we're communicating to our clients well. And everyone falls short, but we really make that effort. Um, you know, I've never had a client that's like, no, I need to be able to get a hold of you at 8:30 at night. Or if I
Right.
and I tell them, like, I literally turn the phone off most of the time.
Mhm.
If not, I turn it on do not disturb. So send that text, call and leave that message. Like,
Right.
it's not going to bother me. That's the whole point.
Mhm.
I have a client that usually messages me at 1 in the morning because he's night owl. That's when
Right.
he's thinking about his project.
Right.
Um, and he's comfortable that he'll get a response about 7:30 or 8 the next morning.
Right.
So, but yeah, so setting work life balance and all that's really hard when you live at home. And then we had our third child, and we live in a 3-bedroom house while the housing market was going insane. So we decided to not buy a bigger house. Um, Kind of hopefully wait for the market to come back down so that we're not buying at the top of a bubble.
Right.
But that means that our newborn's in our bedroom.
Mhm.
Well, he goes to bed at 7:30 and he sometimes sleeps until 7 or 8. Like, there's no way to work
Work around
in
that.
that.
Mhm.
So the office has been amazing. And the office makes me feel, just for my sanity, makes me feel more legitimate. So,
Well, and also you talk about having 3 kids at home, especially all summer long and stuff. They don't understand, like, especially an infant or a toddler now,
right.
doesn't understand, like, "No, you're working." He
Uh-huh.
can't be on dad's lap all day long or come
Drumming
watch
on a keyboard.
Cocomelon or
Yeah.
yeah, he pounds the keyboard like he's
He,
gonna
he
destroy
abuses
it.
it. Yeah, no, and absolutely. I mean, even our 11-year-old is super good about, he doesn't bother me while I'm working unless
Right.
it's something real quick, a question. But even our 6-year-old, like, she just wants to come in there and work with dad, and even if it's just to sit on my lap, which I love, but it's not as productive.
Right.
So, yeah, we got our office in April. And it's also really helped with logistics for us. We do a lot of window installations, and now we have all those windows come directly to our shop every week
Mhm.
rather than having to go to a warehouse and load them on the trailer
Right.
and then figure out where we're going. It's one less stop.
Mhm.
Um, and then from a company morale standpoint, like, it's been really good to have weekly meetings.
Mhm.
I love the idea that I guess I should step back a little. I struggled moving out of the field mentally because I wasn't there. I didn't have the control. I couldn't fix everything on the fly. I really had to trust the guys. And pull that up real quick. Benton, our little one, says, "Dad, oh, you guys can come visit me this week, honey."
I've been on that side note, I've been trying to teach Benton for over a year now to say auntie, and he absolutely refuses.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, he still calls me mom most of the time.
That's good.
Mom. That's what he always says.
Which he would not say that for the longest time either.
No, he wouldn't. He's definitely a stinker, but we're super proud of him. So yeah, office. I struggled a lot when I couldn't be there. And then even more so, like before I hired Tim, and I had marketing to do, I had sales to do, I had so many hats. You've seen that I do something different every day. And I just really struggled. So now the guys are coming, the guys would go to the storage unit where we had a trailer and then go to pick up windows or then go straight to a job site. And like, I would never see them in person.
Right.
Now I see everybody every morning, and I make it a priority 99% of days to be there in the morning, because it's a lot easier for someone to see me and go, "Oh, hey, I forgot I need to talk to you about this," or feel like they can.
Right.
They see me in the office, they see me working, and that helps my mentality quite a bit.
Well, and I mean, I'm sure that that's been an adjustment too with some of those guys you used to work in the field with. It's not like you have all new employees.
Yeah, Oscar commented earlier when he started a year and a half ago, like I was wearing tool belts and
obviously you're the owner, but I think that, that can kind of be a mentality blocker for some of the field guys too, for you to used to be wearing a tool belt and being out there with them, and now you're in the office all day. I think that that's a good appearance that like you're still showing up and you're still doing your part, even though your part's different now than what it was then.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and they see it takes a lot to make this machine work and to really try and grow and to set ourselves apart and be exemplary. They see that we're making that effort, and that there's a lot of people that are working full time while they're the ones executing and producing this stuff, but we're making sure that they have the opportunity to do it.
Right.
So I really like that.
You didn't bring this up, but I'm going to touch base on it. So there's been some people that have kind of experienced this growing with you, and then they have left the party. And so how did you overcome those struggles? Because there have been stress, or at least stress. If wasn't necessarily a struggle, but there was at least some stress in either getting rid of them or them choosing to leave on their own.
I've never really had an issue firing people, because usually by the time it's time for me to fire you,
you already know.
You've shown your way. Yeah, right. Like you expect it. But the people leaving were harder. Especially because we are growing so fast. We are constantly trying to innovate and do more things. It's really stressful, especially like our project manager went somewhere else. And that was cool. He had another opportunity. He wanted to get out of the construction game. But he handled all of it. And so it was like, and he handled it differently than I would have.
Right.
So it was a struggle to move all that over, even though he had it all in his head. That's why I stress documentation and writing stuff down and communicating, because.
Oh yeah. If it's not on paper, it doesn't happen in Chris's world.
Yeah.
He needs.
Oscar can definitely tell you about that.
Oscar will tell you all about that. He needs everything on paper.
Well, because we talk about so much stuff.
Right.
I have any given day, I probably get 70 or 80 text messages, 30 or 40 calls, somewhere between 20 and 100 emails.
Right. Well, and we go through a lot, you and I, about like using Marco Polo and things like that, where you can go back and recap on what we talked about, just so it doesn't get washed away.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, communication and documentation are two huge things for me. But it was a challenge. And then as far as the growing and people leaving, we've only had a couple leave because they didn't agree with the direction we were going, or this or that. And this probably will sound harsh, but that's kind of my personality. That's just a fear mindset.
Right.
one, it's my company. I'm going to run it how I want to and how I think is best to help as many people as I possibly can.
Mhm.
And two, I think we have a really, really, really great team. I
Right.
think we're putting together something really special, and I think we're going to do big things, and I have faith in it.
Mhm. Well, and we've talked a lot too about not I mean, you can have a really great employee, but they might not mold with the culture of the business
Mhm.
and the culture of the company or with the other guys. And we had this discussion this week about you don't want to beg someone to come work for you. You don't want people that work for you to not enjoy coming to work every day.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so those are the people that we don't want just showing up for a paycheck,
Yeah,
We try to be
absolutely.
more than that.
Absolutely. I mean, I really treat most of my guys as a second family. Like,
Right. One of them calls you dad.
yeah, yeah, yep. And tells me he loves me. Actually, I have 2 employees that tell me they love me every day now.
Mhm.
So, and it's not you, which is
It's
kind
not,
of
I do not
rude.
ever tell him I love him ever.
You would think my sister even would be one who does.
No.
It's rude. But yeah, so people can do what they want. My big thing is, and I've been very, very fortunate. Almost every person who's ever quit has left with notice and on good
Right.
terms, and um, but that's the nature of the beast, you know.
Right.
If we ever get to the point, or I should say, when we get to the point
Mhm.
that we have 30, 40, 50 employees, like they're gonna come and go.
Right. There's gonna be turnover.
Yeah. Um, and that's okay
Mhm.
as long as everyone is hopefully respectable about it, and we'll just take what we need to.
Well, and I think part of that with the turnover, like you said, there hasn't been that many, but the ones that have are part of your family. Like one was a very good friend and one's been with you a long time and
Hmm.
you've taken under a wing. And like I think that's also where the hard part of that when people do decide to go a different route, where that comes from that even that stress comes from is like it's almost like you're losing one that you love.
Yeah. Well, and it's even if like I go back to the project manager who left, I still talk to him.
Mhm.
It's just weird because now I don't talk to him all day, every day
Right.
for me. So like it's changing your life, changing your perspective.
Right.
And like, I still talk to a couple of the guys that used to work for me.
Mhm. Yeah, one called you like last week or whatever when
Hmm.
we went to lunch. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's all just growing pain stuff. And then I guess to really finish the story and bring it up to now, you know, uh, April, sorry, had to think kind of days. Oh, probably last year is when I hired my first project manager. And that was good. So like I wasn't wearing every hat that wasn't in the field.
Right.
And then this spring I hired you, and this summer we hired Tim, and it's been really nice to be able to just focus on getting people prices and helping them with their projects and designing stuff. And we've made this transition to really push, one of the reasons I hired you and hired Tim is we want to be this customer service company. We want to be a media company. We want to do all these things in order to help customers,
Mhm.
you know, um, and just be educated.
Right.
What should you ask a contractor when you're interviewing them? How many contractors do you need to talk to? What's the biggest motivator? Is price always the biggest thing? I would argue that price should honestly, as long as your budget can afford it, price should be one of the least important
Right.
parts. Because I just went and met a lady yesterday that she'd spent half of her budget on contractors who not only didn't give her good quality products, but belittled her. One actually yelled at her,
Mhm.
like threw tools out of the house, like,
Yeah. Those are not the kinds of people you want in your house.
but I bet they were the cheapest,
Yeah.
and that's really what all this is about. Like I started a construction company because I like to work for myself and I like to help people. Um, but I also want to elevate what the trades are. That's one of
Mhm.
my big things, and why like some of the guys that work for us have no experience.
Mhm.
Um, but that's okay because we'll train you. We'll
Right.
give you a career path that you can end up making pretty decent money at.
Right.
And but that's just another way to help.
Well, and I feel like, you talk about on the client side of thing, money not being the top priority, but I also feel that with our guys. I don't feel like we have any of our guys are here just for the pay. I mean, yes, that's a great incentive of coming to work every day,
Sure.
but I feel like a lot of them enjoy their job and
Mhm.
like enjoy working with us and the people that we work with. And, I feel like that's even sometimes in the job searches, it's not all about money. You got to enjoy what you get up and come do every day.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's over now, but we had a hard time hiring for a long time just because the unemployment
Right.
initiative, and I think a lot of small businesses did.
Mm-hmm.
Why go to work if the
You get
government's
more
going to
money
give
sent
you
at home.
$40,000 a year
Right.
with all the extra?
Right. Mm-hmm. Totally
So
understandable.
yeah,
I had a question and I didn't write it down. He always
gotta
tells
write
me
it
about
down.
writing those down too.
If you don't write it down, it didn't happen.
But now I can't remember what it was.
Well, so what's it been like for you coming into this? Like, I know we talked a little bit, or you and Tim talked about like your background and where you come from, and so you've had a little bit of construction experience.
Right, you send me to a Menards, I can get my way around the store. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But well, so I feel like my position is ever changing. It's I don't come to work and do the same thing every day. And
would you agree that everybody's position is ever changing in our company?
Yes. And, as when we lost our last project manager, you and I kind of split some of those roles and we're still continuing to do that. Yesterday, I learned how to make my first material list on a deck. And so I think that that's probably my biggest enjoyment is I enjoy not just coming in every day and sitting down and staring at a computer screen, and answering a phone. But I also like really enjoy the people that we work with. Like, we talk a lot about making sure the customers, we're not only the right fit for the customer, but they're the right fit for us also. And I think that we do a really good job with that, like, there's never those, I mean, I can't think of one customer that we have right now that I'm like, oh, I really don't want to call them. And working retail, I've had to make those phone calls. I knew before I ever dialed the number, I was going to get yelled at. And so I feel like that we have set us up for success in that. And really, other than that, like, I don't know. I have struggles getting on here and saying hi before you say hi, but well, I don't really have a lot of struggles.
You get better by doing it.
Right.
That's what we talked about when we first did this thing is the guy that kind of pushes the most, his name is Tom Reber, and he's my business coach. And if you go back and look, I think he's been doing this for 6 or 7 years now. Some of his first YouTube videos were trash. I mean, the quality was terrible. Like he was super awkward. And now you watch him talk, and I'm actually going to Denver to see him in September. And he's just like energetic. He's well spoken. He's super polished. Like that just takes time.
Go through those growing pains.
Yeah, you got to get it.
Well, and so I lost it again.
Sure. So here we'll talk about this. One of the things that you said was like, tell us about the journey and the origins and all that, but let's talk about the turning point more.
Right.
I said I joined a couple groups, and specifically I joined a group called the Contractor Sales Academy, and I joined a group called that Tom Reber runs called the Contractor Fight. And both of those are programs where they help contractors, because a lot of us contractors are we're just guys that wore tool belts. I think honestly, I think I'm a little bit of an exception because I went to school and got a degree in construction, and I've always been just as good with book stuff as I have been with practical stuff. I'm by no means amazing at either one. There's always going to be a savant who's better, but I think I have a good balance there. And but a lot of contractors, like, they think, oh, if I want to make $20 an hour and the materials cost $200 and the job's going to take 10 hours, I charge $400. Well, no, because you got overhead and you got taxes and you got insurance and you should have a marketing budget, and you need to think about replacing your tools. And if you don't do all that, you got to think about time to go get materials.
Right.
And that's what these programs do. uh, Tom's program specifically works with the business side of things, and it's really cool because I've been in it for probably 18 months now, and it's just grown. It just continues to grow. Tom keeps bringing on more and more coaches, and so now we've got a marketing specific coach, a sales specific coach. One of the guys from the Contractor Sales Academy came over. Um, Tom has like a monthly motivational help with whatever topic he wants call. So Tom's a coach. There's a systems coach, there's a mindset coach, and all those things. Like, one, it's way too much information to ever actually consume it all. But it's really cool because you can pick and choose
Right.
what you need the most help with.
Mm-hmm.
And I always found that, I still find it really cool. And he puts a lot of documentation and worksheets and stuff to work through, so you can kind of work through it at your own pace. And then the CSA, the Contractor Sales Academy, like, I can't tell you how much it taught me how to talk to people. And it really goes so much past sales.
Right.
It's learning to have a conversation and not talk over the other person. And so I did that, and in that there is more of a scheduled work. So you do role plays, which sounds super dorky and it sounds super intimidating. And a lot of people honestly will join the group and never jump in, and they'll get benefit out of it because they do sales calls and they do webinars and stuff like that. But
being a part of it's where it's at.
Man, it is. It's how do you handle the objection X?
Right.
How do you find out if a client's serious about it, or if they're just gathering information? How do you? But it's also been good. Like, I learned to talk to my wife better. And it's just letting them talk, which is the opposite of what I'm doing right now. I'm talking a ton, but it's digging in and really getting to the heart of conversations, and not just being surface level. And it's funny because so they do all of their like rankings with belt systems similar to martial arts. So you work your way up, you get a green belt, and then you get a blue belt, and then you get a brown belt, then you get a black belt, and then there's levels of black belt. And I think there were 3 levels of black belt. To get your black belt, you had to take a test. So you had to like role play with one of the leaders of the group, and he was going to be a difficult client for you, and try and throw you a ringer. And so I attained my 2nd level black belt, and I worked through that. And then ultimately I left the group because it was time to focus on something, not just sales.
Right.
But those 2 things fundamentally changed how I run my business. And it changed my mindset and who I was.
Right.
I learned one of the big things for me was like, you're not interviewing and begging someone to let you be their contractor anymore. You're trying to find someone who's a great fit for you.
Right.
And that specific thing was game changing for me, because it's okay if I'm not a good fit for you. I know other contractors in the group or in the city that I can send you to.
Right.
I think like that part alone was just almost freeing, and got some of my like, contracting is it's not always super respected. A lot of times you'll see people say, I want the cheapest guy. I want the guy who can be here the soonest. Da, 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 da. Step back and think about why they're the cheapest.
Right.
Or especially in this economy, why can someone be there in 3 days? Like, you really need to worry about that. Most of the contractors I know are weeks out. And depending on how you run your business, maybe it's only 2 weeks if you like to stay that close. And maybe I know some guys that are booked through the end of the year.
Right.
And so, but yeah, those were probably the 2 biggest turning points. And then recently, when we started reading They Ask You Answer by Marcus Sheridan, and that's where this whole podcast has come from. The videos have come from the real push towards marketing, which is so funny because, we get good traction on our social media. We get a good amount of likes. We get a good amount of views. There's 3 of you watching right now, which is better than the one we had the first tray. And there's been 5 or 6 at a time watching today, which I really, really love. I love to see that. But the thing that's gotten me the most has been how many people that I see day to day say, man, you guys are getting really busy. You guys are getting really big. You guys are killing it on social media. I see you all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Most of those people, I never see a like or a comment or
Right.
or
They're
a
not
share.
necessarily interacting with us, but they definitely have eyes on us.
Right. And I love that. Like just yesterday, I was talking to a friend I hadn't talked to in a long time, and he said that, and I was like, and that just makes my day.
Mm-hmm.
But for the ones who are watching this now or will watch it later, like likes and comments and shares and subscriptions, like that stuff makes the world of difference for us.
Right. You don't have to spend $1 with us. You just got to press the button on social media if you want to support us. I mean,
Yeah.
it definitely makes you grow and get your name out there. Those social media algorithms are crazy with that right now. I mean, I scrolled through Facebook the other day and saw like 2 different people, and they have small businesses, and they were talking about that. Like, please share my page because algorithms aren't getting me views or whatever.
Right. Well, and the crazy part is like that stuff's changing all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like that needs to be your full-time job to do that.
Right.
And so like if you can comment, think about it this way. If you share something, if you go and share my page and someone that you know that I don't know likes it and someone sees that they liked it and needs a project,
Mm-hmm.
your one share could mean $10,000 for us.
Right.
Or $100,000.
Mm-hmm.
You know, literally we have a job that we're going to start working on soon, the design phase at least, and it came from, it's going to be a couple $100,000 project.
Mm-hmm.
It came from a lady who did like $1,000 project with us.
Right.
And she just shared it once.
Mm-hmm.
That means the world.
Well, and a lot of people build that trust because, like obviously I trust your company enough to share it. And then if a friend of mine sees it, like, they know that trust has already been built somewhere in that line.
Yeah. I mean, referrals are obviously word of mouth and referrals are huge. But we live in a digital world now where word of mouth doesn't have to be just your physical mouth saying it.
Mm-hmm.
Your social presence really makes a difference.
Right.
So yeah, that's kind of, now we're here and we're on episode 5 and we're gonna continue to grow and
going. Yeah.
And
on this note, like kind of pushing from, we made it up to this point. Where's your goal? Where do you plan to be?
More.
Always.
So
we always want to grow.
My legitimate goal right now would be a $3 to $5 million company. I'm going to answer this really legitimately because going back to like, we want transparency.
Mm-hmm.
We want to be a transparent company and be really honest with stuff. And like, I posted the price of a project we completed on our social media the other day.
Right.
Most clients won't, or most companies won't do that.
Right.
So I'm going to give you a very legitimate answer or literal answer right now, and then I'll give you the real driving answer. But I want to be a $3 to $5 million company. I want to be able to. I've kicked around the idea of maybe franchising out one day. Like I dream big,
right?
And I want to. In the back of my head, I want to sell it for $10 million if the kids don't want it. Mm-hmm. So that's my big driving goal right now. The better answer is there's this really great speech by Matthew McConaughey, and he talks about his hero. Someone asked him who he wants, who's his hero. He said, well, it's me in 10 years. Mm-hmm. And he talks about why, and you guys should really look it up on YouTube. It's an amazing video. But then he goes on, and 10 years later, the same guy that asked him that question comes back and says, well, are you your hero now? He said, not even close. Mm-hmm. No, it's me in another 10 years. Mm-hmm. Because every day it's another 10 years.
Right.
It's constantly, it's better. It's more.
Yeah. You never settle.
Yeah. And it's funny. My wife, Courtney, almost gets frustrated at that answer because she says, what's enough? Mm-hmm. Or when's it going to be enough? And my answer is always more. Mm-hmm. The bigger we get, the more people we can help, the more lives we can change, the more legacy you build.
Right. Well, and I think with that, we talk a lot about shedding a different kind of light on the construction industry, and um, that kind of could change the thought process and the views of contractors and people that work on construction. So,
Yeah, well, and just elevating and making everything better all the time is something that I think everyone should strive to do. But it's the little stuff too. Like when we leave a job at the end of every day, it's 100% cleaned up. Even if we're in the middle of a kitchen remodel and demo, like I want the customer to go be able to walk in that space barefoot.
right.
Now, sure, they might get a splinter or something that I can't control, and I warn them that. But I've been on construction sites and I've fired subcontractors over it that will leave drywall in someone's carpet. They won't even throw a drop cloth down, or they won't put plastic up and will sand everywhere and put dust just throughout the house.
Right.
That's not what we want to be.
Right.
We want to elevate and be better.
Definitely.
What else you got for me?
I don't know. You went through the chain.
Okay.
How you got here and where we plan to be.
Well, so let's turn it over to people who are watching this, or maybe we'll watch it later. If you're here, comment, say hi. We'd love to shout you out. But also let us know, like, what do you want us to talk about? What's a good topic for the next podcast or for one down the road? Ultimately, we do this for you guys. We want you to be educated and informed, and I'm going to go on a tangent for a second because this drives me nuts.
We do that a lot.
Yeah. I want you to know roughly close what your project's going to cost before you ever have to call me. Because like it will literally make me not work with someone if I see call for pricing.
Well, that's how I am on a lot of things. Like if I get we've talked about a different housing situation for us and stuff, and like me getting online and looking at prices, and it's like call to inquire, and I'm like, no, I don't want to call you.
Right.
Like, I want to know if it's in my budget or if it's not in my budget without ever speaking to you.
Yeah. Well, and like I get it. It's construction, and every contractor's like, oh, I need to come out and look at it because there's so many variables. Yeah, but a range. I know this deck's going to cost somewhere between 10 and 15,000. I know I can't do a bathroom remodel for like a standard 5x8 bathroom. I know I can't do that project for less than $8,000. I know I can't.
Right.
So if I can put that on our website, which classichomeconcepts.com, we talk a lot about pricing. We have a lot of upfront pricing. But I want you to be able to get on there and say, okay, cool. And we're not there yet, but another place I want to be is, how cool would it be if you could, on certain things, it won't work for others, or at least I haven't figured out how. What if you could call and buy an outdoor kitchen completely assembled and everything online at 3 a.m.
like
laying in bed
or something that matches your wants and needs?
Yeah. And so that's one thing we're working on that I want to have is like a brochure. And it says, hey, this 10-foot long outdoor kitchen with these three fixtures in it is $8,000.
And so we kind of did that even when I worked at Menards. They would give you an L-shaped kitchen and multiple cabinets. But it was the same L-shaped kitchen for each one. And it told you with this handle, this color, this cabinet, it's this much for this L-shaped kitchen. Now, obviously not everyone has an L-shaped kitchen, but it gives you a good idea of what price this to this, or also, if you have roughly 20 foot of cabinets, no matter if they're in an L shape or not, you're pretty close to this price.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing is we're not trying to tell you, hey, your outdoor kitchen's going to cost $14,321.
Right.
But I do want you to see, hey, this particular outdoor kitchen, without anything that, there's always unknowns. This particular one costs $12,000.
Right.
Do you want that? Does it have enough features for you? Do you want to go smaller? Do you want to go bigger?
Right.
And I just love that idea. Just making it as simple for the customer to have a great experience as you can, I think will so vastly differentiate us from most companies. Right.
Yeah. I mean, pricing is usually the number one thing, even though we don't think it necessarily should be.
Even some of the suppliers we work with still, You know, like we're in the middle of pricing out a project for corrugated metal siding. Every supplier is like, call us and we'll talk you through it. Or just give me pricing on each individual piece and I'll order it.
Right.
Makes
Yeah.
me not want to do business with you.
Right.
Especially because then they're like, oh, well, send us over the plans.
Well, and usually when they want you to call or something like that, then they want to harass you almost if you don't go with them. And like, I don't know. I was taught way back in my day, you don't put your personal information on the internet. So I don't
Right.
like, at all.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, I feel like that's something that even with our website, if you don't want to call, and there are people that would rather just fill out a quote and get back a message back. Well, we can email you back. Like we don't have to call you especially those people that are way in advance on their project, a couple years out. They just need to know a general idea to start budgeting for their project.
Right.
Like I don't necessarily need an hour phone call with someone to know about something I'm going to do in 3 years from now.
Well, and I think ultimately that's why contractors are like, oh, I want to come out because they think if I get in your backyard, I can sell you.
Right.
I can impress you with my expertise.
Right.
I think that's where branding comes in. You show you're an expert. Actions speak louder than words.
Right. Well, and getting down to the why. We talked about that earlier too, getting down to that why. And why do they want to know a price? Is it because they're really wanting to do this, or is it because they're planning something for 3 to 5 years from now? So
yeah. Cool. We've been almost an hour.
We have.
You good?
Yeah.
Got anything else?
No, I don't think so.
Are you getting more comfortable on screen?
Maybe.
As I make her laugh awkwardly.
Right.
Cool. Well, guys, thanks for watching. We appreciate it. We'll be here again next week and pretty much every week after that. And yeah, definitely.
Let us know some topics that you want us to cover. I mean, we can come up with our own topics all day long, but to hit the points that you're got questions about or comments about, like leave a comment, let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. And definitely, please, when you see us post, subscribe to YouTube, hit the bell notification, likes and comments and shares, all of that. It makes a world of difference to us. It really, really does. So please do it. We'll see you here next week.
Bye, guys.